finding yourself back at square one of like needing toilet paper again after you had experienced a short-lived success can take a toll on your mindset. And I think that in that moment, you can use your energy to defend yourself or develop yourself. And I think that's what pushed me forward again, is that I thought I'm going to use my energy in this moment at rock bottom to redevelop myself.
People define their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. And I think in an entrepreneurial space that we oftentimes look at people that are higher than us or in the similar space doing what we do, and we're comparing our day-to-day or our success in our business to them. And in reality, they also had a chapter 1, and you don't know what their chapter 1 looked like.
Welcome to Keeping It Entrepreneurial, the podcast where we unravel the tales of launching, scaling, and savoring success with your host, the king of B&B, Heath Green, and the property prince, Josh Shepler. Come along as we share our experience launching and scaling a 7-figure property management business that we built and sold, along with candid conversations with remarkable entrepreneurs who've mastered the art of business and have an unbridled spirit for entrepreneurship. Get ready to ignite your entrepreneurial soul and fuel your passion. This is where we celebrate the hustle, innovation, sacrifice, and struggle of building a life worth living. This is Keeping It Entrepreneurial.
You rebuilt Kentucky Life Property Management, relaunched, built it to a 7-figure business that we just recently, I guess in words, sold / what we say is merged. So let's take us back to where that relaunch starting point.
Okay. What I've also learned is that throughout my career, that most people, and I learned this early on, that most people and most successful people were good at plan B. And so that was my plan B. I fell hard, was on the top of everything with the team and property management company and team members and agents, and found myself back to square one with no money, very few properties to manage. And we found this cute little place on Church Street that we fell in love with that was covered in mold.
Well, hold on. We got to back up just a little bit because you just threw "we" in there, and I did not fall in love with it. I am very much a visual person and can walk into a blank canvas and see the vision and the end result. Nothing truly really scares me when it comes to a property. This moment did scare me. Not gonna lie. I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, he's fallen off his rocker. He might not be giving the reaction, but this property is.
Okay, I'll give you that, but
because your mom had the same exact reaction too.
She did, but you guys both were pretty rude. Pretty rude and wanting to crush my dreams, but it's fine.
What timeline are we in right now too? Like what year is this?
2015.
Yeah, fall of 2015.
Yeah, I think we were flirting with 2015. But being the vision carrier that I am, I had to carry this vision, and I saw through the mold.
Yep.
But I just had this feeling, this gut feeling that was our space. That was where we needed to rebuild, and it had this representation of that. Maybe in that moment, it could take our focus off of where we were at and be part of the reconstruction, really, of what we wanted Kentucky Life to be. We put so much sweat equity into that property. And in fact, my mother and I spent Thanksgiving eating one of those like Lunchable kind of tray meats for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that you would get at like a grocery store that has like, it's a prefabricated charcuterie board, but just meat, cheese, and crackers.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
A step above a Lunchable.
okay, yeah. It was the glamorous side of things. And I think that's what I want people to understand, is that it's not always glamorous. On the way
Again,
up.
this building was so bad that we could only be in there for so long because we'd start getting headaches because it had so much mold in it that we had 4 dehumidifiers running 24/7 just to try to be able to last.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, can I back up? Like, I want to tell this story because I haven't told very many people, and I have no shame in my game now. And my mom is probably going to kill me because like she's still like tears up and gets mad at me at the same time when I talk about it. When I left retail and decided, because Oprah says you have to say and proclaim and say, I have decided. Okay. When I decided to leave retail and go into real estate, I said, I'm going to make it. I will make it regardless. And that came at the expense of me missing a couple of my car payments. And because I was like, you know what, you can just leave a job and you don't have to have any money because real estate money will come. And it didn't right away. Okay. It didn't. I mean, it eventually came. But I found myself in a situation where I was behind on a couple car payments. And it just so happened that it was also in my parents' name. And that got complicated because I'm also very independent to a fault where he's know this about me, where I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not really sure if I'm drowning, if I'm going to ask for help, maybe. But I found myself with very limited money. And by limited, I think that's a stretch. And I'm not sure. I think what I spent my money on was buying dog food for my 2 babies. Rest in peace, Dakota and Baron. But I went to my first brokerage and I remember that I went after hours and I had to have toilet paper. And Heath knows this story.
I know this story. I was
And
wondering
I'm
where
like,
you're going with this.
and I'm like, okay, well, you need toilet paper. You don't have any money. And you're definitely not going to call your mom and ask for money because you're not going to ask. Even though she's calling me every single day and saying, what do you need? What can I pay? What can I do to get you through this? I said, no, I'm fine. I'm like, perfect. Knowing that she knew I had nothing, that I was literally getting by, I took the toilet paper from the common area bathroom at night. And that for me was a low point, you could say.
A
But
valley.
yes, a valley. But I say that because, like, in those moments, like, you have to be willing and to do whatever to like get you through those moments. And you're going to have several. And I think we talked about this earlier is that you can't have an expectation around things. And to be very, very honest and transparent, I never had an expectation that everything was going to be perfectly clear and roses and butterflies. Because growing up, and yeah, we'll go there on this, being in the closet and hiding your sexuality, you have to be so self-aware of everything that you protect things and you don't grow to expect people to be certain ways. You don't put expectations on anything. So I think that if I can take anything away from that is that I didn't put expectations around things. And so obviously I didn't expect that success would come quickly. I just knew that I would make it and I wasn't going to ask for any help. I say that and back up because even when I went through this business divorce and found myself back without any money because we had together had a bank account, we had saved our money to launch this new brokerage. And long story short, the money was not given to me in the business divorce.
And just pause real quick on that. I can vividly, and it's so funny that this is where this is kind of going. I can vividly remember the moment you found out. We were on our way to Germantown, Kentucky, to my sister's pageant, a county fair pageant. And you found out in the car. And I just remember that conversation very vividly. During the pageant, a tornado literally came. We were in a structure that was kind of semi-covered to where the pageant was put on
We
halt.
were in a lean-to, let's be honest.
And we literally had to all get on stage while the tornado was going and chairs were flying across the place.
But she won. Your sister won.
My sister did win that night. And I guess you kind of won in life too, because that, you know, even though that was a pivotal moment, it truly catapulted you to Church Street.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I brought that up is because finding yourself back at square one of like needing toilet paper again after you had experienced a short-lived success can take a toll on your mindset. And I think that in that moment, you can use your energy to defend yourself or develop yourself. And I think that's what pushed me forward again, is that I thought I'm going to use my energy in this moment at rock bottom to redevelop myself. And
Because adversity is truly just a season.
yeah, yeah.
This at this valley right now.
I'm sensing this sequence with you all wanting to know my age and
I
wanting to
can, I can
know.
answer this question. Josh was 30 years old.
So
Yeah.
30 starting over though is what I was.
Yes.
Like, I feel like there's a lot of
He was going on 31. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people that feel like they have to have it found out by 30. And
Yeah.
I think people being able to hear that, like, you can start over at 30.
Yeah. I mean,
And-
literally.
All of your lessons learned. So it wasn't necessarily like you were starting over. It was very much like you had the skill set to then build yourself back up.
100%. And you guys were at the same event, at the I Love Coaching event recently, where John Maxwell shared that his father, I think he said at 95 years old, his mindset was that the best years of his life were still yet to come. He told him that at 95
Say
years
that one
old.
more time, because I think that's so important, because we sometimes put a limit on our life. And just like Tyler just said too, like, I mean, I can remember turning 30 as well. I'm thinking like, I'm supposed to be at X, Y, and Z, or like, especially when you're kind of looking at like your late 20s, like you're supposed to be married and have kids, and like these things are supposed to happen in your life. And when they're not, expectations, and you don't know how to deal with that. So I think it's really powerful what you just said. So can you repeat that?
Yeah, he said that his dad shared with him that at 95 years old, he still thought the best years of his life were yet to come.
Mm.
And I think that puts us in a different perspective if we can live like that. And so starting over at 30, not 95, but 30 years old was still not a great place to be on your ego. But I think I had to make the decision, and I think that I did, that I had to become more. And what is the saying? It's your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts. And so I had to reframe my mindset again, because at that point, several things had happened, and it does make you start questioning. And don't beat yourself up when all of these moments in your life compound and make you think that you shouldn't be where you're at, because things happen to all of us. And we also think that the more that we do, and lawsuits and different things are things that are happening to us, they're happening for us. And I say that because the more you step out in your journey and you take bigger risks, those things are going to happen, and they should happen. They're not indicators that you should take a step back at all. You should continue to step forward. And it's what we said before, is that it is failure, and you've got to fail fast. And that's how you know you're failing fast, is that all of these things are happening. And
Because
there's
big dreams have big devils.
100%. And people view failure in two different ways. And I think this is very important to understand. And I've tried to teach our people, and I've tried to teach everybody around me, and I also constantly teach myself, is that you have two different perspectives with failure. One is a process perspective, and one is a personal perspective. And we all know the difference, and we can all recognize the people that are have a process perspective around failure. They know that it's the system that has let them down, that it's part of a system. It's part of the process that I'm failing. It's part of my journey. If it's a personal perspective, then it's it's a victim mentality. And so if you have a personal perspective around failure, you're going to let it stop you. And John Maxwell, the end all be all, says that with failure, you can either learn from it or leave it. And that to me is huge, because so many people leave it and then they don't do anything. You can learn from every single failure. And me saying that is that every single one of those setbacks and starting Church Street and starting over was me learning from it, not leaving it. And I was determined to literally learn from every bit of it.
And I think too, sometimes, and we heard this not too long ago, was people define their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. And I think in an entrepreneurial space that we oftentimes look at people that are higher than us or in the similar space, doing what we do, and we're comparing our day to day or our success in our business to them. And in reality, they also had a chapter one, and you don't know what their chapter one looked like. I mean, most people don't know that aspect of you, that like at 30 years old, you started at zero. I mean, literally zero in multiple different ways. But look at you today. And that might have been your chapter 5 or 8, but they would have expected that to be your chapter 1 at 20.
Yeah. Yeah. Perception is reality. And I think a big piece of that, of starting over and deciding, is where a lot of people find themselves in plan B, that they don't decide. In my opinion, they don't decide what they're going to do. They just leave it there. And what is it? It's the law of diminishing intent, I think it is, that says the longer you wait to do something, the less likely it is to happen. And Alex Hormozy always says, like, just get into doing. Like, just get into doing. And I think, deciding is a big piece of it. I have to play this game with you all. You may have heard it. You may not have heard it. So there's 5 frogs sitting on a fence. Do you remember this one, Heath?
Yeah, I mean, my frog is literally still taped to my computer.
Okay, yeah. So I made everybody, I do this with the team, whatever, and I made them print out frogs and I made them tape on front of it, because you have to decide to do things. That's the first domino. So I'll play the game with you. TT, we're playing the game.
Let's play.
5 frogs sit on a fence. One decides to jump off. How many are left?
5, because he's still there. Or like, unless he died, I guess.
One jumps off. How many are left on the fence?
4. I feel like I was.
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
5.
Okay. There's 5 because.
Yeah, your first answer was right. Trust your instincts.
Yes.
I know.
I know.
Is that the lesson here?
Yeah,
I was trying to divert you. Yes, because there's a difference in deciding and doing. One decided to jump off, but he did not jump off. And so in saying that, I made everybody print out frogs, because if you're thinking about that all the time, have you decided to do something? And I think once you've made your mind up to do something, then the rest will give you momentum. Like, you get so much momentum in just taking the first step.
And you have to also remember that no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey or your life journey, like, part of the process is overcoming. Like, things are sometimes outside of your control. And I think mindset and like what you truly focus on does expand, but like some things happen that you cannot control. And that's part of the process. And that might not have been part of your vision or your goal or how you thought you were going to get to X, Y, and Z, but the process is overcoming it. And I think that's sometimes where you learn the most.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we're back. To reel it back in a little bit, we're launching Church Street. This is like the fall of 2015. You and your mom did not come to my family's Thanksgiving. Instead, you ate a Kroger charcuterie board.
You're so bitter.
And, we had this vision about this boutique style office that was something totally different. We worked day in and day out. We completely renovated the interior and exterior. I mean, I'm not an artist. I am creative, but I'm not an artist. And Josh said he wanted a mural on this building. And I can visually remember one of our really good friends who actually works with us still today, Rebecca. We rented.
You're going to use her formal name. Actually, Becca.
Oh, Becca, yeah.
You're giving her birth certificate name.
I'll back up. Sorry, Becca. But yeah, so we rented, or borrowed, I guess I should say, a device that would cast from our phone to brick wall from a videographer, Jeremiah, that was helping us at the time. And we cast this logo that you had created, which was the state of Kentucky, and it said the word life in the middle of it. And you had Becca and I literally sit there and draw and create a mural on this building that you had, because you literally wanted, even if they weren't your customer or consumer, to be a part of your brand. You were building a lifestyle. And
are you so thankful you did and devoted your time?
I am. No, like literally I could cry again in episode 2. The mural's since been painted over not too recently.
Okay, that's way too soon.
And I'm sorry to kind of be the crusher of bad news. Yeah.
It is. That's literally, you can sell business, but don't paint over the mural. Okay.
But it became a landmark. And I think, even on those bad days, I can remember walking through the hallway or even when we moved to the bigger office and walking to the parking lot and like seeing people taking pictures next to that. And it was like, oh my gosh, life is not that bad.
Well,
Like they're finding joy in this small moment.
we've had people take their wedding photos beside that mural.
I mean,
Like, send
literally the
them.
other night I was scrolling through Instagram and somebody tagged somebody and I was like, hold on, I know this backdrop in this picture. Her Instagram profile picture is her standing in front of that mural.
Well, and I think that brings us back to like our branding and like to the very beginning is when I created Kentucky Life or thought of the branding of that, I wanted it to be something that other people in the company could be a part of. I didn't want to brand the company to my last name.
I was getting ready to go there because so many people in the real estate space use their name as their brand. Like, why was that not
Because
important for you?
I didn't want people to be tied to my vision. I wanted them to be tied to a bigger vision that they could be a part of, be vision carriers. And the Kentucky Life was something that everybody could get behind and feel a part of. And then we could play off of it's just a Kentucky way of life that we could literally bring in and be for the community, be for our owners, be for our clients, be for our team members. And then that brand evolved really, really fast.
And I think there's something that like, there's nothing against people who use their name as their business, but to what you said is
Oprah.
you have to have a vision, and a foundation that people want to buy into. They're not buying into you or your name. They're buying into what you as a business owner are trying to build. And I think that's something that like throughout the years, as we brought in talent and talent left, that's something they were always able to do was buy into our vision.
Yes. And I think, and I'll just say it, I think a lot of people, when they do team names, and I know you have so many thoughts about this, TT, about like literally the dollar bill on your Instagram killed me that time, about agents. But I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about their brands and their names, it's about ego. And I love the saying it's not, because if you're thinking you're going to grow a big business, and again, you got to be tied to a bigger vision, not just where you're starting at. And this is me. I'm a solo agent. I'm a solo person, whatever business you're in. It's not me go, it's we go when you're thinking about your ego. And that is
Give
always
up, grow up, and get up to go up.
okay.
I mean,
Preach.
give up,
Preach.
grow up.
I feel
get
another
up to
tear
go up.
coming on.
You feel another what?
I feel another tear coming on.
Hey, bring on all the tears.
This is a therapy session we just didn't know we needed. But it's really good to obviously reflect back on where you've been and like the story, your journey. But yeah, I think building a brand that other people want to be a part of is a key component to everything. And that is what catapulted us, I think, in bringing the community in to really feeling a part of our brand and our vision. We created merchandise that people wanted to buy, the t-shirts, the hats, the mugs, whatever we had. And that was one squirrel that we were going to chase for a while, because we were like, oh my gosh, we could have this, like, because we both come from retail backgrounds, that we could open up a shop. And then we were like, okay, does this take us further away or closer to our vision?
Yep.
And so we stopped that. Instead, we just gave it a swag. Yep. But let's talk a little about how you joined forces with the old company.
Yeah. So 2015, we personally met in the fall of 2014, started dating in early 2015. And then all of that kind of said, we launched Kentucky Life Property Management again in that fall. I was formerly in the retail space as well. I had just graduated college when I met Josh. And I can remember our first date was like a business interview. And I was so intimidated. He came with all of these questions.
I should.
And I was
It
like,
is my life that was being at stake here. Okay.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's never going to talk to me again, because he's coming with all of his questions. I just graduated college. I'm sitting here drinking my vodka cranberry. I'm not eating the food that you just bought on our date, because I'm like, he's not going to ever want to talk to me. Am I giving the right answers? But here we are today still. So something must have worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I still have those answers if
Do
you
you
want me to get
remember?
them
I was going to say,
out
do
of
you
my
remember one
notepad.
of the questions?
so you just graduated college. What do you want to do with your life and why? Okay. So I graduated from the University of Kentucky. I started out bio pre-med. Quickly realized that like I did not want to be a doctor. And it's not because I didn't find medicine fascinating or weren't able to get the grades. It just was not who I was supposed to be. So literally I can vividly remember calling my mom and saying, I'm dropping out of college. I'm a 4.0 student. I've never had anything but an A. And she's like, hold on, like back up. And here comes another tear coming on. But back up, she goes, you can be anything you want to be. Don't get a degree just because you're going to get a degree. Find out what makes you happy. But we're only paying for 4 years. So, yeah. So I literally took about a year and a half to kind of like dabble in everything. I did everything from poli-sci to communication disorders, and ended up with integrated strategic communications with a pathway of public relations and creative marketing and advertising, with a minor in history. Didn't know where that was going to take me, but at that time I was working in retail, and was quickly working my way into management opportunities that was typically not the typical of someone my age, and had this vision of doing corporate retail marketing for a luxury brand. Graduated college and was approached by a former regional manager, from Abercrombie and Fitch that I worked at, who now is the district manager for Michael Kors, was getting ready to launch a store, and asked me to be part of that team. Came on as that team, and literally our store manager, who they hired from Miami, Florida, lasted like 2 weeks, quit in the midst of before Black Friday, and it was myself and another manager that ran this store with getting outside help in, and that was a very pivotal moment. I learned a lot, and then realized that like met Josh, and was like, okay, Kentucky's not so bad. This guy's not bad either. So maybe I'll stick around. Maybe the corporate life isn't for me. And Josh has always been a teacher and a motivator, and knew that there was something more for me, even though I didn't know that for myself. It was like, you sure you really want to do retail?
I found him so intriguing and I wanted to figure him out and kind of help him because he seemed so torn of like what he wanted to do with his life. And so my questions were coming from curiosity of what do you want to do with your life? Not he received them as an interview. And for me, it was more so of coming from curiosity in order to help him and kind of guide him. But it was somewhat of an interview too.
Was this at Michael Kors or where was this?
No, this was at a restaurant downtown.
Yeah,
Which restaurant do you
It's
remember?
all good.
it's all good. So it was downtown in Victorian Square. I can
Yeah.
visually remember it. You sat on the booth side. I sat in the chair side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but coming from a small town too, and I can remember this aspect. I went back to during college, and this was when I was switching my major, and ran into an old biology teacher, who I had 2 AP classes with in high school. I had her every single year of high school, and I wasn't going to have her my senior year. And going in the end of my junior year, I convinced her to teach a class just so I could have her for a 4th year. And she taught another AP class. And she came up to me and she's like, oh my gosh, how's like pre-med going? Like, how's school going? And I can visually remember in that instance, I just said good. And I had already made the decision that I wasn't going to be a doctor. And it was that moment I was like, oh my gosh, I just lied to somebody that I looked up to, knowing that she would never judge me for what was coming. But I felt like I had to put this facade on. But yeah, so I left retail, went and worked for a local marketing company, as a buyer. And we did e-commerce and events space. So some of my accounts were the Equestrian Events Inc., that put the Rolex 3-day event at that time on, which is now the Land Rover event, at the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, Kentucky Colonels, and a couple of other things. But handled their e-commerce, their merchandising, dream job, learned a ton in that short period of time that I was there. But during the midst of all of this, I was helping Josh on the side with Kentucky Life. And
And
always,
that's downplaying it. We were literally doing everything until 1 a.m. every night.
yeah, I mean, I would literally go to
Every
work
morning,
at
whatever.
retail, the days that I worked an early shift, and would get off work, typically go let his dogs out, which became my dogs too, and then go down to the office and help. And then when I left retail, I did the same thing. I would go work a 9 to 5 and then literally swing by the office and see what I could do. And I kind of in the back of my mind knew that we would kind of join forces in some aspect, but I thought that was like years down the road. Like I had to pave my own journey. And in the winter of 2017, I guess it was like, okay, like I'm super stressed. I didn't even realize how stressed I was in this marketing job. Very, very thankful for that opportunity. But it was time for me to move on to something else. And Josh was needing to hire, and instead of hiring outside, he's like, why don't we hire within? So I took the leap of faith, and my partner in life became also my partner in business and also my salary. So yeah, there's like this huge, like, oh my gosh, like he's writing my paycheck for me too. And I think we quickly learned, we shared an office together at Church Street. Learned a lot.
Yeah, I
Learned,
don't like sharing office space,
learned a lot. We operate totally different. And I think
which
that's,
is a good thing.
yes, and I
we
think that's something that
recognize
helped.
that immediately.
Yeah, that built our success. Josh is this visionary, and I'm very much an implementer. And I'm very much a black and white kind of task oriented, start with A, B. You give me the system, I'm going to tell you exactly what's wrong with it or what's right with it and work it. And like, I'll help you build this thing, but I need you to help create the vision. And we quickly realized that we both had a sense of customer service and wanted
And
to,
that's what aligned us quicker and faster than anything, the alignment in the customer service and experience piece.
yeah, I mean,
is
like
that-
the customer was key for us. And like, we really wanted to create this experience worth sharing. And that was in every part of the business that we did. I think that's something where we did align with and we're really good at like collaborating with. So yeah, I came on in 2018 and been a part of it ever since. So I joined forces with you, kind of talked that I was kind of like the implementer side in 2018, and catapult almost to 7 years later to today and present. We're sitting here. Kentucky Life Property Management has since sold / merged with the largest property management company in the entire nation. It's the fastest growing property management company with almost 30,000 doors. So we've aligned our forces and our business with them. And through 18 to now, I mean, there was many pivotal moments that I think in future episodes that we'll talk about, but we grew from those 20 doors that you were talking about to almost 1,600 doors at one point, I think, which was our highest. And we did that in less than 5 years with repeat and referral business only. We never paid for advertisement. My implementer role went from multitude of different kind of things. At one point I was an office manager and you fired me from that. And
I think you fired yourself.
I may have fired myself, but
That's
it sounds
fine.
better
You're
when I
still-
say you fired me.
You're still clinging on to it, I think, so it's fine.
You know, we cleaned toilets at times. There was nothing that we weren't willing to do to get us to our goal. And like I said in episode 1, we reached our 5-year goal by year 3 and exceeded those. I launched a short-term rental division, which is what I'm currently doing now, an operator in 2018, the fall of that, I believe. So yeah.
Yeah, which will position us greatly to see of what we've done and what we've built and all of our setbacks, which have led us all the way until today, and that we can share the story and share how others can learn and grow from the same mistakes that we've made.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Keeping It Entrepreneurial. And be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Don't forget to check out the show notes for those actionable items to stay engaged for future episodes and how to stay connected with Josh and Heath. And if you found value in today's episode, leave us a review and please share with others.